Okay, welcome to MLA report number 1. And to get to this activity, you are going to need to click the link in Canvas that is going to take you to this folder. And inside of this folder, you are going to come down here and you're going to find this file, MLA1, which this is going to be a report. And you're going to immediately need to copy this file over to your folder. So you're going to click this button that's got the 3 dots on it, and then you're going to copy it to, and then you're going to come over here and click your OneDrive, and inside of your OneDrive you should have that folder that you put all of the work that's got that you're sharing with me so I can grade. So you're going to have to find that folder and then click it, and let's say this was the folder in question. You would click on that folder right there, then click copy here. But instead, of course, you're going to click the folder that's got your name on it that you share with me, that's got all your work in it. Now when you do that, then you go to that folder. And when you go to that folder, you're going to find the file in there that you can actually edit as we're going to edit here. So now I'm going to click on this file right here. Actually, I'm going to repeat the process myself. And I am going to create, I'm going to move to, and I'm going to click. Let me find that folder that I've been using as an example, and it's this one right here. And then I'm just going to click move here. So now I've got to go look in that folder. This is what you're going to have to do. And that's the file that you're going to have to edit. And here's the file that I just told you about. Now, again, you got to remember, you got to get this folder, you got to get this file over to your OneDrive before you can edit it, which is why we have that extra step. So when you copy it to your OneDrive and then you click that link, then it's going to take you here. Now we're ready to get into the meat of the assignment. Okay, so I wanted to teach you how to use the online version of Microsoft Word to edit a report that follows the guidelines of the Modern Language Association. And the Modern Language Association is a group of, I guess you could say, scholars who set forth the guidelines of what a research assignment should look like, not only in terms of how it's formatted, but the how to document the sources that you use for your research report. Because when you do a research report, you're going to have to prove that you are not just making something up. You've got to be able to indicate, well, I got this piece of information from this source and I've got this information from that source, and these are all credible sources. You've got to be able to provide all that, and the MLA guidelines allow you to do so within a particular format that makes it easy for the reader of your report to actually verify your sources. So what we're going to do here is, I have decided on this first activity, I am going to give you the text that goes along with this report, and this activity is actually about how to format a report following the guidelines of the Modern Language Association. So it's an MLA report about formatting an MLA style report. So we're going to do several of these steps in order. And what we're going to do is, first of all, let's just go ahead and take care of the header. Now, in the online version of Microsoft Word, if you come up here and click this button right here, this is your header. Now, your header appears at the top of the document, and anything you put in the header will appear at the top of every page of this document. So if this report turns out to be 3 pages long, as this one will end up being, you're going to see whatever you put in the header in that position on the document. Now, in MLA style guidelines, your last name goes in the upper right corner, followed by the page number of the document. So what you would need to do is to come over here in this right header box, and notice how this blank line, or how the insertion bar is blinking on the right side. What you're going to have to do is you're going to have to type in your last name. Now, I'm pretending that my last name for this activity is Smith, and then I want to hit the space bar. And then the next thing I want to do is to come up here under my table design and table layout buttons, and I want to click, it's actually you want to click on the Insert tab. Now again, my disclaimer to this is I'm used to doing the desktop version of this, so as I go along, I've got to find, I'm going to find some differences between what I'm used to doing, and that's perfectly okay. So we're going to insert the page number. Okay, so under the Insert tab, if you come over here and click where it says Page Numbers, you want to put in the page number. In this case, you want the page number that's this one right here, because it's going to be at the far right. And what you see here is you see a hashtag, as you know it as, or a pound sign, as us older people know it as, inside of these brackets, and that means that there is a command that's going to be inside here. And what's going to happen is every time a new page is created, this is actually going to update automatically. So again, you have to remember, whatever you put in the header or the footer will appear in every page of the document. So if you type in the last name of Smith, Smith will appear on every page of the printed document. However, if you type in the number 1, you manually type it in, the number 1 will appear on every page of the document. Well, you want the page numbers to update, so you have to put in this page number command like I just showed you. Now, the next thing we need to do with this is we need to change this font size. So we're going to come up here and select this with our mouse, and then we could either use this mini toolbar right here, and we need to change our font to Times New Roman size 12. Now, you could also have gone under the Home tab and changed your font to Times New Roman size 12, but this works as well. Now, when I click off of that, notice that you no longer see the header up here. You can see this box, but you can't see the text that you actually typed. Well, that is because of the settings of Word Online. Now, you could click View, and let's see here. You could click Reading View, and let's see what this does in the online version. This may, okay, when you go to the Reading View, then you can see up here in the page number, or in the header in the upper right, you're going to see the last name followed by the page number. Now, if I scroll down here, you know, as of right now, all of this fits on one page, so there is no second page. Okay, so what we want to do is I want to get back to this, and I want to click Edit Document, and I want to edit right here in the online version, and we can continue to edit this. So just know when you're in the edit mode, you're not going to see that text that you just put inside of the header, but it is there if you actually go into reading mode or if you were to print it out. So the next thing that we want to do to this document is MLA guidelines indicate that all the text should be Times New Roman size 12. Now, in some cases, I mean, matter of fact, down here in my instructions, you know, when you read this report on how to do this report, they tell you to use a standard, easily readable typeface and font should be used, and often instructors will tell you to use the same one, typically Times New Roman size 12. And so again, always do what your instructor says, but you can't go wrong with Times New Roman size 12 as long as your instructor doesn't tell you to use something else. Well, here in this report, the text is already Times New Roman size 12, which is why we made this text up here in the header Times New Roman size 12. So now I want to click down here somewhere, and then the next thing that we need to do is MLA guidelines state that the report text should be double spaced. Now, again, I'm going to try to see if the keyboard shortcuts that I am used to using for the desktop version will work here. I'm going to see if it will. And it did. If you hold down Control and hit the A key, Control and A, that will select all of your text. And now what we want to do is we want to change our line spacing for this entire report to double. Now, there's a couple different ways we can do this, but what I want to do is to come over here under the paragraph dialog box launcher, and I want to click that. And we're going to look at a couple of things while we've got this open. All right, first of all, the line spacing by default is set to single. Now, you need to change it to double as I'm doing. And in some cases, going forward, your spacing before and after should also be 0 point. What that does is that allows you to put in a little bit additional extra space between a paragraph to make it a little bit easier to read. Now, I am going to tell you in MLA guidelines especially to make sure these two settings are at 0. And all of these other numbers over here should be, you just leave them at default. So right now we're just going to change this one setting from single to double and click OK. Now we're going to do that, but let's go and look at view again and then click this reading view, and now you're going to see how this goes down. And now you've got 2 pages. And up here at the top of the second page, notice how this says number 2. All right, so we want to continue to edit this document. We got some more changes we're going to make to this. So click the edit button. So we've changed our font to Times New Roman size 12. We changed our line spacing to double. The next thing that we want to do with this is we want to change down here. We have got a long quotation. Now this paragraph right here, it tells you, is another difference in MLA style formatting guidelines, is that when you have a long quotation that takes up 4 or more lines of text, you need to set it off by beginning a new line, by beginning each line 1 inch indented from the left margin, and it should be double spaced, which we already have it double spaced without adding quotation marks. Now I do want to point out to you, when you're doing these reports, you typically don't know ahead of time how many lines of printed space that a paragraph will take. Well, in this case, you do know it because I'm giving you that text ahead of time. Now, by the way, one of the reasons that you can tell where all of these paragraphs end is because right here, for example, where you see all this blank space here, that means that the enter key was struck, which creates a new paragraph. Now, let me actually come back up here and click my show and hide button again. And what we're going to do is we're going to scroll down here. And you see that you hit enter right here, but then the next time you see that paragraph mark is all the way down here. So all of this text right here is part of your long quotation. So what you're going to do is you're going to select this paragraph and you're going to indent it on the left by 1 inch. Now, previously what we did, we went under the paragraph dialog box launcher, and you're going to need to do that again. And over here where it says, let's see here, it says indentation before text, what you want to do is to change this to 1.0, or in this case you could just make it 1 inch, and then you can click OK. And when you do that, that entire paragraph moves over and it is now indented 1 inch from the left. Okay? And that's how you format a long quotation. Now, something else I want to point out to you, and because of the way this activity is set up, you don't normally see this happen ahead of time the way you do here. But notice how this paragraph, you've got 3 lines right here, and then right below it, you've got this broken dotted line. And then notice how here you've got a header. Well, you see a header here, and then this is actually a footer because this is where the bottom of this page actually ends. And you cannot have one line of a paragraph by itself at the bottom of a page or at the top of the page. You've got to have at least 2 lines together at the bottom of the page or at the top of the page in MLA guidelines. Now, by the way, there's one other thing I just realized that I did not tell you to do, which affects this, is that MLA guidelines also tell you that your margins should be 1 inch all the way around. So what you need to do is, if you'll go under your Layout tab and then click Margins, you'll need to make sure that you are using normal 1 inch margins. Now, by the time you watch this video, I will have probably gone and changed this from normal 1 inch margins to something else, just to make you have to do it. So you're going to need to change these margins to normal margins. Okay, and again, with normal margins, with your line spacing being set at double with no extra spacing before or after, when you change your line spacing to double, this is the way this report should look. Okay, now the next thing that you need to know, and by the way, I do want to point out where you see all these dots right here, that is one of the differences between the desktop version of Microsoft Word and this online version. Basically, this is where you hit the space bar, and you typically don't see these. You see these when you hit the Show and Hide button, which is what we did earlier. And typically, I would just tell you to hit the Tab key. So what I did was I deleted all of those spaces, but if I hit the Tab key on my keyboard, then it moves you out. And when you do that, you know, you see here, and if you could take a ruler on this, you see you're still at the same spot. See how all these align right here? Okay, so again, on the, you could either hit space. It looks like maybe they've got 10 dots in here, which means you would have hit the space bar 10 times, or you could hit the Tab key 1 time. Okay, so now we're going to come down here, and this is actually a very short report. And down here we have a Works Cited page. Now the Works Cited page is a list of the sources that are used to create this report. And what we're going to do is MLA guidelines, and I'm going to do some of these things backward, but the MLA guidelines state that a Works Cited page should always start on a new page. Again, MLA guidelines state that the Works Cited page should always start on a new page. And again, I'm going to try to do this and see if the desktop shortcut that I know will work on the online version. If it doesn't, I'll come back and show you what you need to do. So we need Works Cited to start on a new page. All right. So I tried the desktop shortcut, which does not work on the online version. So I want to see if I can come over here and go to under the Insert tab, and I want to insert a page break. So the desktop version is Control and Enter, not just Enter, but Control Enter. Control Enter puts in a page break. But here we're going to have to come over here under the Insert tab and click Page Break. And when we do that, because of the formatting, how we've got this, here we've got an extra paragraph mark right here. So I want to take that out. So I've clicked to the left of it, so I want to hit the delete key on my keyboard, which that's not working. So now I want to click in front of Works Cited, and I want to hit the backspace key, and that's not working either. And I'm going to be honest with you, because we're using the online version, we're just going to leave it just like this. If it's working for you, that's fine. Normally I would tell you you don't want to see any additional spaces on here, but that's fine. But notice right here it says page break. This is a manual or a hard page break. It means that it's a page break that you forced to be there by going and hitting the page break button as we did. Okay, so that's what that is. All right, now the next thing that I want to do is MLA guidelines state that a paragraph, this is called a first degree paragraph heading, and in MLA guidelines, first degree paragraph headings should be in the center of the paragraph. So what we want to do is, and again, I want to try the keyboard shortcut that works with desktop to see if it works, and it does not. So what we're going to have to do is, and there's a couple different ways you could do this. I actually right-clicked with my mouse, and I don't see here. Now again, there's multiple ways that you can do this. I don't see what I wanted to see here, so I just want to come back. Instead, I want to click on the Home button. And this is the button I was looking for right here. I want to click the Align Center button. And you see how that aligns in the center. And earlier in one of these previous paragraphs, we've got another one of these that we need to do. So I want to scroll up to here in this fifth line right here. MLA Style Research Report. This is your report title. That is a first degree heading, and a first degree heading gets aligned in the center, and you capitalize the first letter of all major words. Now again, because I'm giving you the text to this document ahead of time, you know, the order in which we perform these steps, it really doesn't matter as much. And what we're going to do is, you know, that's why we've gone back and forth. Now, if you were typing this report from scratch and going forward, you're going to type some reports from scratch. You can choose to go ahead and type in all your text at first and then come back later and do the formatting, or you can make the changes as you go along. But do note that every paragraph can be formatted differently. You know, these are actually paragraphs, and by the way, if you can't figure this out, this first line is your name, the second line is the name of your instructor, the third line is the name of the course, and then the fourth line is the day the assignment is due or being submitted. And then you got your fifth line or your fifth paragraph, as I said, is the name of the report. And then down here, you've got the first paragraph of the report. And of course, you indent the first line of that paragraph. And I'm going to continue to scroll down here. And we're almost done with this activity. So the last thing we need to do here is down here. These are the two sources that we use to create our report. And I want to go over with you what this information is. Now again, you're given this information, and typically if you were actually typing this report from scratch, you would not be given this information. But the first thing I want to do is actually format it correctly, and then I want to break this down for you, what you would need to get from an actual source if you were typing the report. I want to select these two paragraphs with my mouse. And then again, I want to go under the paragraph dialog box launcher and click on that. And our indentation is actually going to be hanging. It's a special type of indent. And when I click hanging, look what happens to the second and the fourth line that we selected. And by the way, by default, you want it to hang 1/2 inch. So I'm going to click OK. And you see how this changes appearance. And what this does is a hanging indent is where the top line hangs over the edge of the second line and third line and fourth line if those lines existed. Now here they don't exist. of a paragraph. Now, again, we're talking about the lines of a paragraph. So just to make something up, I want to come in here and I want to type in some additional characters just to show you what this would look like. Actually, I did it on the line below accidentally, so let me back up and let me start this over again. And I'm right here. So I'm just putting a bunch of capital H's. Look what happens as I hold this down. And now, honestly, I think, not quite sure why, but the word print that you see right now, now it's on the end of the line in front of it. And that's something that may happen because of the fact we're using the online version to do this. But really, none of this should be there. I just wanted to point out to you that when you add additional lines, that only the first line in a hanging indent is at flush with the left margin, and all the other lines of the paragraph are indented 1/2 inch. Now, I'm going to come down here and just kind of add in some spaces here, and you see how this continues to space out. But again, we're just going to go delete all that, and I really don't need this because I was just making a point, and I just want to delete that. So let me go over the parts of this with you, and again, going forward, any report that I give you to type in this class or to create in this class, I'm going to give you the information for you to type, and so you're not going to necessarily have to know all of this, but let me go over it with you. Okay, first of all, you got the a works cited page in MLA guidelines. Works cited page is listed, all of the sources are listed in alphabetical order according to the last name of the first author listed. So this author's last name starts with a G, and then this source, and this author right here, last name begins with an H. Now notice this actually has 2 authors here, and this author, this book actually has 3 authors. So you list the first author listed last name first, but all the other authors are listed in the regular format of first name and then last name. And again, you list the authors according to the order in which they're listed on the source. So this source has 1 author, and this source down here has 3 authors. So again, down here you've got last name first, and then you got first name last, first name last. So the second thing you list is the name of the source. Now this is an actual book. I actually have a copy of this book. I have a more recent copy though, and you italicize the name of the book, and you quote if there's an edition, you would list that, 4th edition. Now, right now, MLA is up to the 8th edition. And then you would put in the city in which it's published. And the next you would put in the name of the publisher, which is the Modern Language Association of America. And then the next thing you would put in was the year of the publication. And then in this case, you'd put in the word print because you would want to indicate that this is a printed source. Now, if you were getting something off of the internet or off of some other electronic source, you would mention whatever that is. But right now, we're going to stick just to print sources. And then down here, the second source, we've got the 3 authors that are listed, the name of the book. Now, this actually looks like it is a textbook, okay? And, if you italicize the name up here of this book, then you would want to italicize the name down here as well, Business Communication, even though it's the name of a textbook. And it's the 3rd edition, and it was published in Cincinnati, Ohio by Southwestern Educational Publishing Company in 1996, and it's a printed book. And again, nowadays, and with electronic publishing and whatnot, it's going to be, it could be an electronic format. It may be a web address or something of that nature. Now, that is basically it for this activity, although I did forget down here, if you'll notice that here it mentions, you see Harcourt 448. This particular piece of information in this report came from the source written by Harcourt. If you go down and look at our sources, notice that Harcourt was the first author listed as the second source down here. And this quote came from page 448 of that book. And then you're going to find some other instances in here. Now here, you see the name of the author of the first source that was listed down here. And because you actually mentioned the name of the author as part of the text of the paragraph, then there's no need to mention the author's name again down here in the citation. So down here where you see this number 73, that means that this comes from page 73 of the book that was authored by I guess this is Gibaldi, Gibaldi. So anyway, again, those are just little differences, and this isn't necessarily a report where I'm trying to teach you the high details or the fine details, I should say, of formatting a report. I'm just really trying to show you how you generally would format this. I might go into these criteria that you have to include in later activities that you're going to complete for me. And again, you got to understand this. I am not having you to actually do a research report from scratch. I'm just trying to show you how to use Microsoft Word to do some of the basic formatting. The time will come, trust me, where you are going to have to do some research reports from scratch. And your probably English teachers will spend a whole lot more time on this and show you some additional resources than what I am going to show you. So once you have are done with this activity, you would need to go back in here and you would need to share this file with me and through Canvas. And again, if you have saved this file into the folder that you've already shared with me, all you got to do is to copy the link to this file and upload it to Canvas and submit it for a grade. So that is it for this activity. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask.